Yo, Synapse, what's up?
Time to get your summit on, Synapse.
Who does that? Nobody but me.
Heading up into Synapse here. I'm a skateboarder. I don't know if I'm allowed in here. It says no skateboarders. Right there, I know. I guess I'm gonna go up in here and park anyway, even though I'm a skateboarder. Yeah, I got jokes. All day long. Let's get that ticket. Spend the last of my food money on parking. Literally. Let's do that. Come here, boy. So this dude just told me, funny enough, I tried to get a ticket. Security guy just rolled by and said, this is like only for staff parking here or something. They got a whole parking garage here. They got a whole conference here. Yet they closed the garage for some reason. So what I'm saying to you is kind of funny in my mind. And it's funny because of this. See what I'm saying? Because of the sign right there that I pointed out. No skateboarding. And haha. Joke's on me, right? Yesterday I parked at the Amelie Arena in their garage. Today they wouldn't let me in. They said it's only monthly, whatever passes. Now I come over here to park right in here, in the shadow of the park, which is right there in the arena where the Synapse Summit is. Try to use that machine, and guess what? Watch this. Yeah, man, it's a crazy quest for parking today. It's like you gotta have permits. It's like the hourly parking is closed. It's almost like the Amelie Arena does not want this conference to happen today. I guess that's how it goes. You've got all that happening right here in the shadow of progress and development. The future's coming, guys. Where's the parking, yo? Come on, man. Come on, man. Man, this just keeps getting more ridiculous and more ridiculous. I'm looking for parking. I'm looking for parking. I'm getting further and further away. Further and further away from the parking. Man, what the? I don't even know. Yeah, I did park for a cause. My cause was to go to the Synapse Summit today, the innovation conference here in Tampa, Virginia. Parking for that cause, and I had to park far away because they closed the garages and the parking lots that were convenient for parking yesterday for everybody. Now go figure that out. You asked me. All right, here we go. Amelie Arena. I keep messing up how I say it because I'm not from here. Watch out now, I'm about to go spray it. It's like, come on, where are we supposed to go, man? Where are we supposed to go? What's up with that? Where are we supposed to go, huh? Beautiful sewer cover though, I love the art, love the art. And that's right, there's my heart. I got my heart on the line up here at the Synapse Summit today. Let's work it. Yep, let's work it. Well, they say patience is a virtue. When I say they, that's just a common thing we say here in America. But yeah, patience is a virtue. It gets you what you want. If you can learn to control your mind, you can learn to control your tongue. If you can learn to control your tongue, you can get up off the bottom rung. That's what I'm hoping to do here today. Here at the Synapse Summit and Innovation Conference here in Tampa, Florida. It's incredibly awesome. All right. Yeah, that's day 2. Here we go. Synapse Conference, Summit, Innovation, Plummet, whatever. I'm dumb and dumb it, but I don't know. Anyways, time to not slum it. I gotta get there. Gotta make things happen. Yeah, I got some skateboards, but I'm not curb slapping. Time to go inside and see what's happening. I got to stop this verbal crapping because it sucks. I should be napping because I don't get enough sleep. But here we go into the Amelie Arena. I go to creep. That's right, there's only 40 of these in the world, and they're made in St. Petersburg, Florida. Yup. That's that Vader. I was showing it to you yesterday. I guess this guy right here must be pretty important. Old Phil right here, because he gets a primary spot. He gets a hockey stick and a suit, right? And he gets a tie with lightning bolts. Go Thunder, go Thunder, go Thunder. There's only 40 of these cars in existence. They make them in St. Petersburg. Super dope. Super dope vehicles. How do you pronounce that?
Vader.
Vader. Vader. That's right. These things are sweet. The Vader supercars. Look at this thing. Can you believe it? 40 in the world only. Only 40. This baby right here is supercharged, I was told. Top notch. Look at that, Vader, right there. I don't know about you, but I'd get one if I could. And it's all right here today at the Amelie Arena, the Synapse Summit. Let's go on inside, check it out.
As you can see, we have a very difficult relationship, but it's loving. So
It's a love-hate relationship.
yeah.
It's like 70.
He only hates me. Yeah, he only hates me when it's time to go eat and he has to pay the bill. But you can sit next to two complete strangers and they'll tell you exactly what's going on. Oh, we're booing that guy or that guy. You cannot know anything. And I think it's the same way with soccer. But in basketball, like in football, players change teams all the time, coaches, etc. So only the people that are diehard sports fans from that organization are gonna know like the ins and outs of the changes of the teams. It's just like, you know, because of free agency or whatever. But in WWE, it's a global thing. We're shown in 170 countries weekly and broadcasted in 35 or 40 different languages. And so I always tell people I could have played in the NFL for 20 years, been a 5-time Super Bowl champion, and not gotten nowhere, had received anywhere near the I guess, stature and presence that I do in 1 year of being on WWE television. Because you're going to places like Australia. Australia loves soccer. They love WWE. They don't know anything about American football. Go to China, Japan.
Dave, I want to go back to the multifamily space real quick. As we talk about this experience, what do we need to be thinking about on around connectivity? Like, what is the building, and we'll go to the commercial as well, but from a multifamily building, what do we need to have in the building? What kind of connectivity to make it all smart, right? So to have that frictionless environment that you keep mentioning, where you're not taking your wallet out, you're not taking your keys out to access the building. Can you kind of talk through what's critical about the connectivity? And is it Wi-Fi? Is it Bluetooth? Like, what do we?
Sure, yeah. So we explored a lot of different options, and as I alluded to earlier, community-wide Wi-Fi is just completely cost prohibitive for multifamily owners. So Mike knows as well as I do, multifamily owners on average hold an asset for 5 years. So for them to make an investment of hundreds of thousands of dollars into community-wide Wi-Fi, they better see a really nice ROI to do it. Typically they won't on a retrofit. So again, depending on asset class, hiring deals, you'll probably see it. Right here.
Space, you run into more and more problems. It's actually something that's going to be very much needed beyond just an asset. It's a commercial thing that's going to be needed. There's so much infrastructure that's being developed by all these companies, not just in the U.S. but outside. But this high-end computing power is something that, from an infrastructure perspective, if someone can do that, it's a big business.
So I think it's important to spend a little bit of time just kind of thinking through that process. In addition, product analytics. We can't stress this enough, how useful it is. Because the days that you don't have time to get something on the phone, one of your users, to have Google Analytics implemented or Mixpanel Amplitude. If you're starting a startup, there's different startup codes and packages that all of these big companies have that you can use. At Lunchpool, we're using Google Analytics.
Yes, sign me up too. But it'll be a while. I mean, I hate to say that. It'll be a while because we need to bring the cost down for actually launching people into space. And I'm going to hand it off to you.
So there's two companies, one of which will be doing commercial flights this year, Virgin Galactic, which went public earlier this year. They've got one spacecraft built. They're in the process of building two more. Eventually, they want to, ship them off to the Middle East and the Far East and have a whole series of these, vehicles. $250,000 a head is what they charge. They stopped taking tickets years ago, mostly because they've been 10 years behind in actually delivering the service. But if you believe their forecasts, and they've got public forecasts, you go out on the web and pull down their investor deck, they're going to be flying thousands of people into orbit in the next 5 years. The other company that's out there is Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, which has the New Shepard. That's a vertically launched capsule that goes up and back. Again, they haven't given a time frame, but probably next year they'll start flying people. But I'm sorry to say, at $250,000 a pop, they have more demand than they can serve for the next 10 years. So don't expect those prices to come down unless new entrants come to the market or they achieve some kinds of economies of scale, because they have no reason to lower the prices.
Well, when does the IP for themselves, right? So that's an example of that. Now it starts getting a little iffy if you're not putting 100% of your money in. There's an aspect of this that we are doing this with public research dollars, and in that world, the public deserves to understand the knowledge that comes out of that. And so there's sometimes our publication requirements or requirements to make sure that you make the findings public. Now, in terms
in case you guys need the full glory of my drop-off outfit for my son, okay? I mean, embarrassing. It's gonna be one of those days. What are you gonna do?
I don't know if you guys want any advice from me after seeing this, but you know, every mom can relate. I thought we would be on time. My outfit wasn't stellar, and we weren't on time, and I had to walk them in. And it's just like I call it the mom walk of shame.
So I assumed your children didn't have challenges growing up, but clearly they do. They have to have mom, as my son says to me, dad.
Yeah.
So this is, what of this can our audience learn, right? I'm interested in these folks being able to come away with some lessons. It's not to do what you just did necessarily. There's something else there, right? There's whoever they are.
Yeah, I think, you know, one is, what is your story? People connect with stories. I took on billion-dollar industries with story. I was very connected to my why. What is your why? And if the why is greater than yourself, you will have more energy and more passion on the days that you want to give up. You will have more courage. People ask me a lot where I get my courage. My courage literally comes from this why is bigger than myself. And the why for me is to elevate women. To elevate women on the planet and to honor the women that came before me that didn't have the chances that I had, and even the women around the planet right now that still don't. That's what gives me my courage. I mean, I'm scared of a lot of things. I mean, I'm terrified. I was terrified to call on my first account that I sold Spanx to. I still get nervous, but I think, you know, that's what drives me. And so what is your why, and stay connected to it. I think that's a really big part of it. And be yourself. There's only one of you, so don't try to be anything other than yourself. And I think there's so much power in sharing that with your consumers and your loved ones.
Is the why something you have to have out the gate, or does it evolve over time? Did it evolve over time for you?
I mean, I've had this feeling of wanting to help women and kind of make the most of my given life because of that for as long as I can remember. It wasn't really discussed in my home. I wasn't exposed to one specific thing that caused me to feel this way, but it really has been there for a long time. I would say that when people are looking for their why, I would say just a quick way to find out for yourself is what makes you cry. What makes you feel really bad, whatever that is probably pretty connected to a why or something that you feel really deeply about.
So in my experience, the why is there whether you realize it or not. And it is, for me, a process of uncovering it. This is just a little tiny anecdote. I used to run a brand called This Old House, which is a public television show for 40 years. And if you thought about the show, you would think it was about remodeling. At one point, we took a step back and asked why people cared about remodeling, and the realization was, well, they're not doing it just to, bang their thumb with a hammer or step over a garden hose. They're doing it because they want a better home, and that's what was important to that brand ultimately. And it unlocked something remarkable, and I suspect your why you're just not a commodity anymore. When Spanx is not a commodity, you are not a commodity in a world that is very commoditized because of your why.
Yeah, for sure. And I always say I took on billion-dollar companies, and I didn't have the most experience, none. I didn't have the most money. I had $5,000 in my savings for this, and I didn't have any connections in the industry, but I cared the most. And I really believe that was a really big competitive edge. I cared the most, and I was determined to give better products for women, better solutions to women. I mean, this Spanx all started with one product that I thought of for myself to wear under white pants and couldn't find anything to wear that wouldn't show. But when I was standing on the manufacturing plant talking to everybody, I realized, oh my gosh, nobody here is really looking at this through the lens of the consumer. I am the consumer. I need to be her advocate. You know, it's like, who in the room is thinking about the fact that these are uncomfortable, or they're binding our waist, or they're rolling, you know, all of these things. So then I got really passionate about advocating for women through product as well.
I walked around upstairs before, and there are all sorts of different companies exhibiting here, right? From solopreneur on to quite large, successful, mid-sized companies. A lot of these people have partners. A lot of them have investors. You did it all by yourself. What are some of the things that were easier for you doing it by yourself, and some of the things that were harder doing it by yourself? And could you have done it if someone else were working with you?
Well, I can't answer that last question because I didn't experience that. I would imagine that I could have, but I don't know. I think the benefit of doing it by myself is I didn't have to answer to anyone else. I could really honestly follow my intuition and my instincts at every turn. I could stay, you know, I didn't have any, sometimes there's conflict that can happen between partners or multiple parties that can distract from the business. I would say the downside of me doing it by myself is it can be lonely, and it can feel like, you know, heavy too, you know, when you're the sole owner of something. But I believe that the benefits of being able to really honor the path is outweighs.
And that's what was energizing for you.
Yes.
Coming back to your why was what was energizing.
Yeah, and I've had an amazing team of people around
right,
me throughout this
now,
journey.
right?
I mean, I can't do it without the people around me. Like my assistant Lisa's here. She's been my assistant for 18 years. She's my right arm. But there's people at Stakes that literally hold me up, support me, and I tell people as soon as you can afford to hire your weaknesses, do it. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're every department, and you're also, so you realize really quickly what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, and what you're good at and what you're not good at. And there's usually a correlation between the two. And as soon as I could afford to hire someone to do more of the operation side of the business, I did. And that's been hugely beneficial. And I think as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself is to stay in your lane. And what is your lane? You know, for me, it was inventing product, marketing, and sales. The other parts of the business are confusing to me. They drain my energy. They're not my thing. So I try to find, you know, those people that I trust and can lean on, and vice versa. The other thing I'll tell entrepreneurs is as you become successful, interestingly enough, it becomes tempting for you to get farther and farther away from what you loved about starting the business. And that happened to me. So I was really good at hiring my weaknesses, but I wasn't as effective of staying really close to the front line of what got me energized. And so as the business grew, I suddenly became in a position where I wasn't doing product every day, and I wasn't inside the product development department, which is where I get all of my energy. I had somehow, the company, there were a few layers that had happened between me and that department, and then really I was in a position where just issues bubbled up to me. So I became like sitting in the company, and all the big issues that became big enough would come to me, and I would come home and feel so drained and not as energized and think, I'm not having as much fun. And it took me a while to put my finger on that, so that's another thing I can share with you from a lesson learned.
And that's going from someone who had to call friends to appear on a video that the Oprah Winfrey Show was shooting of you because you didn't have a team and they wanted the team.
Yes.
And so, that was very resourceful, by the way.
I had no staff.
You had no staff whatsoever.
Oprah called and said, we want to film you in your headquarters, which was my apartment in Atlanta. I was like, okay. And then when their crew arrived, they had so many clipboards and all this big production, and they go, we also discussed we want to film you having a staff meeting. And I was like, oh, okay, hold on a minute. And I called 3 or 4 friends and Connie that I'd met at Mailboxes, etc. And I said, can you guys all be at my apartment in 15 minutes and look like you work for me? And they did. So that was my staff meeting.
That resourcefulness is remarkable and something obviously all entrepreneurs need. There is, when I was found out I was going to be speaking with you, I went on the Inc.com website and I realized that you, more than anyone else, populates our content. There's an enormous amount of content about you at Inc., including a video in which you talk about your crotches. Which it turns out is not an anatomical thing, right? No, but it was a problem that you had when you I mean, you were being playful in the video, obviously.
I just have to ask you, have you ever been able to say the word crotch in an interview in your whole career?
Not in front of legitimate people.
No.
And I was worried about it doing now, so thank you for helping me through it.
It reminds me of, I love when I'm interviewed by men. I got interviewed by Coach K from Duke. He was thinking about doing a pilot television, series, and he asked me if I would come and be one of his first interviews to pilot it. And he interviewed me for 35 minutes without saying the word panty. And I could tell that it was like had become awkward several times. So finally I leaned over and I'm like, panty, you can say it, panty. And he turned bright red and he was like, oh my God. So I give him a lot of street cred for just going right for crotch.
Thank you very much. Lav, my mom's not here.
Come on, man.
But this was a problem, right? You had just made a sale to Neiman Marcus. You called your supplier, your manufacturer, and the gusset machine, which more proper people than we are call, that's what the crotch machine is called. The gusset machines were promised to another brand.
Yes.
And that is a stumbling block that could have derailed you entirely.
Yes.
It didn't.
Yes. I mean, there are crises every day that happen. I've been doing this space is 20 years old this year. I started it in 2000. And it is just a series of like, what you got, crisis after crisis. And how do you turn that into, make lemons into lemonade? And how do you find the positive? And so one of the things I always say is, as an entrepreneur, one of the most important assets that you have is your mindset. And I say, work on it daily. Like whatever it takes. For me, it's listening to Wayne Dyer. I've been listening to him since I'm 16 years old. Any kind of positive messaging that can get me ready for the game. I mean, you're basically like a professional athlete every day in a major game. I mean, it's just, the competition comes in, this crisis happens, that crisis happens. So the crisis that you're talking about is when I first started, I landed Neiman Marcus, which was unbelievable. It was like the most exciting moment of the journey practically. I had called on the buyer there and flew to Dallas. She said she'd give me 10 minutes of her time if I would fly there. And I pitched it to her. She wasn't feeling it. I could tell. I was really good at reading nonverbals because I sold fax machines door to door for 7 years. So when she's like, I like it, I'm thinking, no, she doesn't. So I asked her to come to the bathroom with me naturally. And she's like, excuse me? I was like, I know it's a weird request, but will you come with me to the bathroom and I'll show you my product on my body, in and out of my white pants. And when she said, Sara, I get it, I'll put it in 7 stores, I flipped out. I was like, it was the first account I ever called on. And I called Sam at the manufacturing plant that gave me my chance to create these products. And I said, Sam, it's Sara, I need more Spanx. I just landed Neiman Marcus. And that's when he said, first of all, he didn't believe me. It was like dead silence. I go, Sam, are you there? And he goes, Sara, don't take this the wrong way, but I thought you were going to give these as Christmas gifts and holiday presents for the next 5 years. I was like, Sam? I just landed Neiman's. He's like, what? So then they patched passed me through to Ted, who I had met. Ted was super, super Southern, and I had had a lot of experience with Ted in the factory because I never quit my day job doing this, but I would drive at night and on the weekends, and I would take weeks off work here and there to go. And anyway, Ted said, Sara, he said, well, that's great, but what you gonna do about the crotches? That's exactly what he said. And I was like, what do you mean? Don't they come with crotches? We've been making them with crotches the whole time. He's like, well, yeah, but you gotta have your own crotches. And anyway, it was a nightmare. So I just landed Neiman Marcus and I have no crotches. So I looked up crotch in the yellow pages. I really did.
It's not there.
It's not there. So then I found out there's a fancy word for crotch called gusset, which helped my search to find it. I found gusset companies around the world. They were FedExing me crotches. My roommate would come home. She was a school teacher, and she'd be like, you got another crotch in the mail. And at the last second, I found a guy, and I can't make this up, named Gene Bobo, who owned a crotch company down the road in Norcross, Georgia, in Atlanta. And Gene was probably 70, and I said, Gene, I need crotches like tomorrow. And he said, well, drive down here and tell me your story. And anyway, they got me the crotches in time to land me the Marcus.
I almost feel like we should all say it together. but the other part of that story, quick poll of the audience, maybe show of hands. How many of you would have, if asked by a total stranger who just flew in out of town to accompany her to the restroom, would do that? But, I don't believe any of you.
These are 40 people. They have to win. My husband always says you can take Sara out of Clearwater Beach, but you can't take the Clearwater Beach out of Sara. Yeah.
I think it is another example, though, of just a never say die attitude that you clearly have, and I think most entrepreneurs need to find a way to have it in some way, right?
And I thought, oh my God, this is where my chance begins. And I took 2 years off and stood in every Neiman Marcus around the country from 8:30 in the morning until about 7:30 at night and sold the product for them. And I promise you, had I not done that, I would not be sitting on this stage. My product would have been shipped back to me within 6 months. And I never would have known I was sitting on a $1 billion company opportunity. And it was just because at every turn, I'm like, how can I be in charge of my outcome? How can I be in charge of the destiny of this? And I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, I'm going to send this amazing product to a store. It's going to be in the sleepiest corner of the store. It's going to be in the fate and hands of people making, X amount of dollars an hour that might not be as inspired as I am. And I was like, I got to make this happen for myself. And I would set up display days. We call them Spanx days. I would visit friends in cities and recruit them, and they'd come for a day, and they would help me sell it, but they would also act really interested in it.
Did you all know that when you launched your entrepreneurial journey, a certain amount of insanity had to accompany you? I know, or a charmed life. I just feel that if I called up someone about crotches, if I asked a woman at Neiman Marcus to go to the men's room with me, if I did any of the things you've done, I would be arrested and not a successful for whatever it's worth. Everyone's journey is different. You have become an advocate for women through your business and through your foundation, and which is focused on women entrepreneurs. What do you hope to achieve with that?
I would like to balance out the feminine and masculine energy on the planet. That's all.
No small task.
Yeah.
But practically, what does that mean?
Well, I would like to encourage and support as many females as I can to start their own business, to fulfill their own potential, to encourage them and support them to be in leadership positions. I really do believe that it's about the balance that we will all be better served on the planet. And so, just with my brief life, I'm hoping to make an impact in that bucket.
A worthy cause, certainly. I think you have been brilliant today. Yes?
Yes!
Am I going to get an evaluation?
That's what these cards are. That's taking.
Am I going to get a Grammy?
You've been brilliant for 20 years, more or less. I think a lot of your mom would say that anyway. But I think a lot of other would too, right? For a lot of people, that's enough. Maybe not Vince Carter, who I know you know, right? But for a lot of people, that would be enough. It's clearly not enough for you. Retirement doesn't seem like it's a role you're interested in playing anytime soon. Your work not done?
No, I think that, I want to make the most of my life, and so that's not ever going to go away, and that can take different shapes and forms throughout my life. But in every chance that I've been given to take the scarier choice, or the choice that makes me really scared, I tend to take that one. And I guess I've been doing it on behalf of a lot of women that weren't even given that choice. So I would imagine I'm going to keep doing that in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Spanx is 20 years old. I've owned it for 20 years. It has been an amazing journey, and we're just getting started with moving into apparel. Spanx has been mostly undergarments, but we made a pivot and we make the most amazing leggings and activewear. And then a bunch of women already with their Spanx leggings on, and we make men's. So, I'm passionate about making things better than they already were, or the white space where something didn't already exist. That's my favorite place to play. I mean, the best compliment I can receive is when someone says, "You guys created something that I didn't know I needed, but now I can't live without." And to me, that's why I get up in the morning. I mean, that is the best, most fun thing to do.
And that, I think that's why everyone's here, right? They all hope to do that in their own way.
Yeah, one of the things I always say is sell the problem you're solving, not the product. People are far more emotionally connected to that than your product. And, I learned a lot from cold calling. I cold called for 7 years, or on and off for 7 years at Danka, and I've got a Danka friend here, Nancy. So Nancy and I cold called together at Danka, and I always say, if there's one thing you can do once in your life, cold call, because the learnings from it is incredible. And anytime I meet anyone who's ever cold called, I'm like, wow, because it's a super humbling thing. But I learned very quickly the what's in it for me, and if you don't have what's in it for them in the first 15 seconds to 30 seconds, you usually don't get the second 30 seconds. So an example would be when I called Neiman Marcus. I had learned this through years of getting doors slammed in my face at Danka, and also getting, business cards ripped up in my face. Nancy and I we would lose our minds so much after brutal days that we had this code where I would say, "I need to meet you on a back street." Yeah. And we would meet on a back street and we would blare the bare necessities. And we would get out of our car and we would dance in the middle of a street in a neighborhood to the bare necessities.
Amen, sister. Amen.
And so, but it was like, and so what I learned from all this cold calling, though, is that you got to have the what's in it for them very quickly. You got to learn to differentiate yourself. Why are you different? If you can't look in the mirror with your business and say why you're different very clearly and be able to articulate that to someone else, spend time in that part of your business and get clear with it. But when I called the Neiman Marcus buyer, I said, "Hi, I'm Sara Blakely. I invented a product that I know your customers are not going to want to live without. And it's actually going to change the way your customers dress, and it's going to help your sales associates sell more product, more dresses." So I didn't And I learned that from Danka. You know, I mean, had I just called up and said, hi, I'm Sara, and I have a product I want to show you, and started going into all the features of my product, she may have tuned me out, but I immediately was like, I get in her head, like, what's going to matter to her? What's going to be important to her? And so that's a what's in it for them that I had to learn through brutal doors being slammed in my face. Sell the problem you're solving, not the product. I would always start with, you know, when I first started my product sales, I was like, do you own anything in your closet that you just don't wear anymore because you can't figure out what to wear under it? And I didn't meet a woman who didn't say yes. And then we would be sharing a common problem together. And then I would say, well, I came up with a solution for that. And here's what the solution is. Here's the why I did it. Here's why it's the best option on the market above every other option. So I would make it very clear that way. But yeah, if you can cold call, do it. It's really a great experience.
I think this was a lot of really useful information in a tale delightfully told. I really want to meet your parents after this and find out how they
I think they should write
were responsible for.
They should write a parenting
They should write a parenting.
Because they only had 2 children, and my brother's an entrepreneur who invented something in the tech space, and he was an accountant with no tech background, and he just sold his business to Medallia 3 months ago.
Good for him.
And
Wow.
so they raised 2 entrepreneurs that took risks and, you know, invented something. And I always say what you don't know can be your greatest asset if you will let it. I didn't know how any of it was supposed to be done. Like when I cold called Neiman Marcus and all these people from the industry came up to me and they were like, how in the world did you land Neiman's? I would look at them and I'd say, I called them. And they'd look at me and I'd look at them and then I'd go, why? What do you do? And they're like, well, I go to trade shows. There's trade shows. I set up a booth. I've been trying to get the Neiman's people to come to my booth for the past 3 to 5 years. Not even knowing that there were trade shows, I just followed a different path. So the trick is to pursue something you don't know how is supposed to be done. You have to really work on the mindset piece of yourself. Because self-doubt is there in every single one of us. I have self-doubt still to this day. I will have crippling self-doubt and I'll have to work my way out of it. But, you know, if you can get over the self-doubt part and pursue something that maybe you have no experience in and follow your own intuition on it, you're probably going to come across something really revolutionary and do it really differently. And I tell people at Spanx, I said, you know, we're all on autopilot. Everyone here is on autopilot. We're all doing something the way someone else taught us to do it or that we saw someone do it. So I tell people at Spanx, just close your eyes for a second and imagine how would you do your job if no one ever showed you how to do your job? How would you live your life if no one ever showed you how to live your life? What would be different? And see what bubbles up when you ask yourself those questions. And then if you can find the mindset and the courage to pursue them.
Courage.
Yeah, then that's a really beautiful intersection to be in your own life.
And regardless of how much material success you might achieve, you've achieved another kind of success, and that's pretty great, right? When you think that way, right? I hope you guys all found this as useful as I did. I thought it was really inspirational. On behalf of these folks in the Synapse Summit, and with apologies to your orthopedist, thank you so much.
Oh, wait, I have something to give to the audience too.
Oh, geez,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, my orthopedist wasn't thrilled I was going to get on a plane, but.
So, this is on your Instagram account, right?
Yeah, so, yep. So I'm just going to give some, if anybody's interested, if you go to get out your phones and you go to @SaraBlakely, which is my Instagram handle, and you put hashtag
Synapse
Summit in my last post, I'm going to pick 30 of you at random and give each one of you a free product, any free product on Spanx.com that you want. And then I have really good men product, and if you don't want a man's product, I'm sure there's a woman in your life that will be thrilled that you get her some leggings or something from Spanx.
Thank you.
And I wish all of you the very best. Keep doing what you're doing. The fact that you're even here in this room says a lot about you. It speaks volumes. And I just really hope the best for each and every one of you. Thanks for being here and thanks for having me.
Scott and Sara, thank you so much.
We have to get
We really appreciate your time, you coming up here, even as you're managing through your transition here. We'll help you with your crutches off stage.
Awesome.
Thank you all for participating. When we bring the Synapse Summit together and we bring entrepreneurs and leaders like Sara and Scott, it really is so meaningful to have this opportunity to share these inspirations and share these opportunities for our community. We love sharing announcements here at Synapse Summit, all the different ways that you all are making an important impact for our community.
talking to me? You talking to me?
I'm talking to you, Mayor. I'm talking to you with a cool hat. I want a hat like that.
You must be talking to me.
Rock and roll.
Am I here to entertain you?
Yes, yes, yes. Si, señorita. Ooh, you guys are cool.
Can I get a picture? How do you get a picture?
Yeah. Ooh, look at that. Thank you very much. Can I use a camera to phone and phone to phone home?
I'm kind of scared of you.
Don't be scared, you silly.
Are you from outer space?
Mayo cheese with blueberries. Mwah. Kisses and hugs. Love you, mean it. La, la, la.
There it is.
Delicious.
Oh my God.
I'm putting that on social media tonight, baby. You better watch out. I'm going to hashtag Synapse Summit and call it a day. Look at you. You're the best ever.
I'm sorry. I called it Monday Night Smackdown. We had here, and this place was packed. There was standing room only. And I came in through the back, the loading dock, and it was a little, shouldn't say bizarre, but it was a little bizarre. There were like 500 people in these little trunks, and there were masseuse and makeup and costume and hair people and everything else. One guy was talking to me in a Scottish accent. You know, he's chiseled out of stone. He's like 8 feet tall in his little bikini outfit, and he's talking in his Scottish accent. I go, "Where are you from?" He goes, "St. Pete." How did you get that accent? But that WrestleMania is bigger than the Super Bowl, so.
And this is where we cue Titus O'Neill's entrance.
Yeah, that's right.
Comes up and joins
Our
us.
man Titus.
So I have one last question, one last written question before baseball's. No, I'm kidding. How do you see your Triple T program growing in our region?
Well, Transforming Tampa's Tomorrow is something that is you know, it's going to be very dynamic, very fluid, and it's going to continue over, hopefully, 8 years, and transforming Tampa into that city that we all want to live and work in, and the city that we will be proud to pass off to the next generation. I'm 60 years old. I was born and raised in Tampa, and I have never, ever seen a time like this. I mean, the thoughtful development that is in place, we are creating entire neighborhoods all around this city. So we have a very, very unique, once-in-a-lifetime chance to create the world-class city that we know Tampa is. And I couldn't be more excited to be a part of that, but it's everyone's responsibility. Everyone from the citizens all the way up to government has to take a part in lifting this city up. And we also have to ensure that everybody in Tampa gets to take part in that success and enjoy the city that we're going to create. It is an exciting time, and I tell you what, every day is just greater than the day before.
Now, I'm 37 years old, and I was born and raised in Clearwater. My parents moved down from New York when they were pregnant with me. Hi, Dad. I have never seen a time like this either. And being here, now being a Tampa resident, the growth, what has been happening, and we really are starting to find our voice. A lot of the things you've just said over the last half hour, I had said earlier in a talk, and it's phenomenal to see. And everybody here is very authentic, and we're paving the way for the future and really helping to create what that growth trajectory will look like all together as one community. So it's thrilling that everybody out here gets to be such a big part of it. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for doing this. This is amazing. It's a big honor for me. It's a big honor for Synapse, for us, on behalf of everyone. Thank you. Everybody, let's give a hand to Mayor Castor.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Synapse.
Well, this was originally the start of our robot business. This time's been modified for some special coming robot we're actually here. It is the, to look at the side, it's the emotional support robot.
Wait, what does it do? You got it working?
Actual function or comedic function?
Comedic function. What's
it's an emotional support robot. It has nice space over here.
Oh, yeah. So
Okay. I'm good. I'll come over there right
Oh, is that what she got? Thank you so much for coming. You're welcome.
Figure that out.
Oh,
This is great.
and one of the things that we did was like we had something of for his ideas, and we just threw this stuff around and just really let it just
All right. Good to see you. I gotta go over there. Every time you're like, all right, thank you guys. So nice to meet you. All right. Are you? Take a picture.
That's great. Love it. Did you catch any of
Columbus is a wonderful